Hello, good evening, I should say.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
3 hours
Hello,
earlier. Is it late
Melissa.
afternoon? I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, Melissa, you're not so evening yet.
It's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock here on the West
Yeah,
Coast.
well, it's 5 o'clock
We
somewhere,
should
isn't
get
it?
embedded.
Yeah,
R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett.
yeah, okay.
Well, I'll say something out of context that's off date, so no one knows when this airs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, listen, we're very good about this now, Melissa. We're gonna be you'll be up in a couple
Couple
weeks.
weeks,
It'll be
yeah. The
fine.
turnaround's real quick now.
Wow.
There was one point where that was like a year. So just
Wow.
Well, when
yeah,
we first started, we
we
had
were bad.
50 in the can, so it was
Yeah.
like 2
Wow.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, consummate fucking professionals over
Consummate.
here, right? So, listen, I loved all of the chats we've had so far. So, I was really psyched to get you on here to chat because I think I just professionally relate to you really well. But personally, when you're telling me your stories and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I've heard this story a million times. And Tom
I know
is an
nothing.
acupuncture and knows nothing about you,
I
but
know
has probably also heard this story 100 times through his clients. So, I just think it's going to be a fun conversation. So, with that, like, just start from
Go.
wherever you want to start
Just go.
and go. Like, tell us a little bit about how you got to like where you're at now, like, because it is a cool story.
Where to
Not
start?
all the parts are cool. Let's put an asterisk. It's not all cool, but it's an interesting story, right? Like, it's not all like there's some rough spots for you.
Well, there are some rough spots, period. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's some rough spots for any human being.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I describe myself is like, I've really tried to be a good soldier and work for other people. I really have. It just doesn't work.
Sure.
At this point, I'm in my mid 40s, and I have to accept that my work in this world is to go create universes and then kind of build them and run them. And then I do that in the form of companies. And I love doing it with technology because I love doing it with technology. But I didn't know any of this when I graduated from college at the sort of dawn of the digital age. You know, it was right when everyone had Ethernet cords and could access the internet from their laptops, and this was a big new change in the world. And
Do you want to know a crazy fucking thing about Ethernet cables? I on my 1994 tour of University of Hartford in Hartford, Connecticut, one of the selling points of the dorms was it had an Ethernet jack in every room.
Yeah,
everybody
DSL
there,
everyone went nuts for.
Everybody in the place was like, "What the fuck is an Ethernet jack?" Like literally, like no one had any fucking clue. Fast forward like a year, I figure out what it is, and my mind almost blows up in my dorm room. I'm like, "What the fuck? This is amazing!" Like,
and now if you can't download a 2-hour movie in 30 seconds on your cell phone, you're like, what the fuck is with this technology?
30 seconds?
What janky ass system.
Listen, I've got an iPhone 11. I still have a flip
you
phone.
Admit that?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Saving up
anyway,
for the 20.
I digress. You said Ethernet port in your early days. I was like, fuck, I think we have the same story over here. She's like all jazzed about an Ethernet jack too.
I mean, it was a big deal back then.
It's a huge deal.
And I graduated from college, and it's before the era of social media, and I succumbed to social pressure of like, well, I'm good at writing and I don't really know what else. Law school, I guess I'll go to law school. And I went, and look, it's perfectly useful for reading contracts and buying properties. And it gives you a sort of pedigree of like, well, you must be smart, I guess. You went to this law school. But I graduate and I make it to New York, and I did the whole shebang, took the bar and admitted to the New York State Bar. And I get to my office at a law firm in the Lipstick Building in Manhattan, which was a few floors down from Bernie Madoff's office. And I sit down in this office, and I literally said to myself, I will die here. I have made the biggest mistake of my life. There is no way that I can do this for 30 years. I had this fantastic education. My upbringing was interesting. I come from both sides of the family, there's plenty of mental illness, and there was tough stuff. But the one thing that my mother always advocated for and made happen was she said, you're going to go to private school. We're going to figure out how to pay for it, and you're going to have a great education. So I went to this fancy all-girls school in DC. I went to an Ivy League college. I went to a good law school, and I come out and I'm like, oh, I've got this education, and now I'm ready for the world. The education taught me almost nothing relevant. It probably taught me more than I gave it credit for, but almost nothing relevant to the journey that I've been on to find my place in the workforce. And one of the huge lessons that I had to learn was who am I, and what do I actually love doing, and what am I actually good at? And lawyering was not it. I could do it, but I love that categorization of the zones of your
the zones of genius
ability. There's the zone of there's the zone of incompetence. Then there's the zone of competence. Then there's the zone of excellence, which is like you can do it well, but above that is the zone of genius. And the zone of genius is way better than the zone of excellence, because the zone of excellence, I mean, from a practical standpoint, you're never going to make as much money in the zone of excellence as you operating in the zone of excellence as you are in the zone of genius. And then you're always replaceable in the zone of excellence. You always are, because you're excellent, but like other people are excellent too. And AI is going to be excellent at a lot of things.
I mean, isn't that the existential threat of AI, right? It's exactly. Like,
it can take over a zone of excellence for a lot of things.
6 minutes and 40 seconds, Tom. 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
We need a buzzer is what he's referring to. That's we have an AI buzzer, and I believe a psychedelic buzzer that we need to buy.
Get your buzzers out, boys.
I think we need 2 of like those easy buttons from Staples. That are programmed for us.
I mean, I'll hit the AI more than I'll hit the psychedelics.
Oh, it's just the first one. It's only a first time. How far can we get in?
We need to timestamp it.
It's getting quicker. I mean, under 10 minutes is aggressive, so it's good.
I mean, there's some that like we know the second we have the guest on, that is the topic, right? So that almost doesn't count, but like
Anyway. Yeah, that's the existential issue with AI, right? It's like, okay, that they could be really excellent most of the time.
It doesn't matter. AI would be more excellent. Yeah. And honestly, I like to say I was Gen Z too early, because Gen Z now is really revolting against the sort of corporate structure in the corporate world. They're like, why are things this way? Why am I expected to work in this environment? This isn't how I do my best work. And that was me. And oh man, let's just say in 2004 and 5, there was not much of an audience for that. Like, you are this pathetic special snowflake. Shut up, do your work, blah, blah, blah. So I am someone that when I find myself in a bad situation, I get out. I find a way. I get out of it. And this was the era where digital media was taking over. Gawker was starting to take off. Huffington Post and Drudge Report were breaking huge stories and were taking over from traditional print media. And with the inventive, Ethernet, suddenly everybody has a computer attached to the internet, connected to the internet at their desk at work. So everybody's reading these at work. And in New York at that time, a big phenomenon, because also this was before YouTube, before LinkedIn, before Facebook, blogs. Matt Mullenweg had created WordPress, and that opened up the world. You didn't have to know much about coding, just a little basic HTML, and you could have a blog. So I have terrible insomnia. I'm wondering, how am I going to fix my life? And I'm like, screw it. I'm starting a blog. I knew how to brand, and I knew how to write, and I knew how to tell engaging stories. So I set up a blog, an anonymous blog. I called it Opinionista. And it was a Romana Clay. It was about, an undercover young female associate at a white shoe law firm and all of the experiences I was having. It took off. Gawker started covering it. Then the New York Times covered it. Eventually, I revealed my identity on the cover of the New York Observer, and I staged this reveal. And because it was, I could do a whole podcast about the Wild West craziness of being a popular blogger during that time.
Oh, I'm sure.
bananas. You had to like ally with other bloggers we were all a little crazy. Like you don't do this unless you're like a little out there. So my best friend at the time was.
So you're saying don't start a show, is what you're saying? I'm hearing.
Well, I feel like Matt and I both tried the sourdough recipe during COVID, and then we decided the blog was more our route.
Yeah,
there you go.
The podcast.
Look, I'm not saying don't start it.
Yeah.
The era of AI being weird is going to be such a commodity. So like embrace your weirdness.
Yeah.
But like there were just one of my best friends at that time was a bouncer at one of the hottest clubs in Midtown, and he had an anonymous blog about being a bouncer at one of the hottest clubs in Midtown, and he was like one of my best friends. Never would we have been friends otherwise, but we were find ourselves in this crazy weird world. There was a fellow legal blogger whose blog was not as popular as mine. He tracks down my identity, and one day I went to work and I get this email from this guy saying, I have discovered your identity. Here's the picture of you on your law firm's website. If you don't start promoting my blog and get Gawker to cover it, I will reveal who you are and I will get you fired. You want to know what I did?
You went on the cover of New York.
I'll beat you to it.
I screenshotted his email. I took out his identity and immediately sent it to Gawker, and they ran it.
Oh wow! Gawker knows who you are now. Yeah,
yeah.
You know, another thing in this life, like don't fuck with me. Like
did you CC him at least? Did you have the foresight to CC him or BCC him?
She doesn't want to give the contact to Gawker that she knows.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to give him the email addresses to the editors of Gawker, but he could have found him anyway. But like, he got to see the big moment in Gawker where they covered this. They were like,
so funny.
Oh, this is great. You know, like if somebody comes at you with guerrilla tactics,
you got to
swing back.
Yeah.
I had to learn that the hard way. Like one thing I did do, the only things I did that were useful in college is I read Shakespeare, which taught me all about how nuts people are and how crazy, and men in particular, although there's tons of crazy women in Shakespeare. But and I read Clausewitz's Art of War and Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is like, somebody comes at you like that, annihilate your enemy. Annihilate your enemy in the first instance. I was like, okay, I guess that's what we do here. So it was wild. It was just craziness. And I was like, I'm on my path to getting super fired. And I don't want to be in this profession anyway. So I did this. I left the firm, said, I'm going to go be a writer. And they all laughed at me. And I revealed my identity on the cover of the New York Observer. And then boom, I'm a media personality, which, okay, great. But then it's still this Wild West. And I land with my first paid writing gig at the Huffington Post, back when the Huffington Post was a bunch of kids in a loft on West Broadway, sharing an office with Thrill List. And literally, like, because Ken Lehrer, the money side of Huffington Post, the business side of Huffington Post, his son is Ben Lehrer, who founded Thrill List. So he basically let his son just like take out the office. So
that's funny.
Not so bunch of kids in a loft. Ariana would, show up every once in a while. And it was total Wild West. It was like, can you write? Great. Write something. See how much traffic you get. So I was very much trained in the art of getting attention on the internet, which can be a good thing, but also not as much of a good thing. So from there, I get a call from the authors of Freakonomics, and they're like, look, we're going to launch a blog on the New York Times website, which was a radical thing back then because there was no New York Times digital division. So I become this redheaded stepchild at the New York Times where people are literally like, you do what? That's not real journalism. And I'm like, sorry, that's, you're going to become.
It is a real paycheck, though, just to let you know.
Like it is work.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of those newspaper people are, let's just say they're not exactly swimming in job offers now. I don't say that with joy. I really respect. I mean, these were really fantastic journalists. And there were really fantastic horse and carriage drivers too.
Yeah.
That one movie with Danny DeVito where he was like the takeover guy, and he goes, and he gave that really cool. I always thought that was a cool speech at the end, like at the major moment where he's convincing the board to approve the takeover. He's like, when there was the last buggy whip manufacturer, he was probably the best damn buggy whip
He's the one that
ever
survived.
existed.
Yeah.
It was probably the absolute best of the best of the best.
Matt's going cinema and I was going punk, and I was like, oh, there's that No Effects song, Dinosaurs Will Die. And it's about the record industry as the takeover of like, you know, digital, you know, and people could make their own music and post it on a bunch of places. And they're like, fuck the record labels, you know?
Yeah, I remember Napster. I remember all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the best.
And it's funny that having this conversation, because Melissa, I'm only maybe a year or two older than you. And so I was in this journey, you know, just a half of a step ahead of you in New York City. And so like, it's weird to me that I'm hearing your stories going, oh, that's familiar, but oh, fuck, that was like 20 something years ago. Like
30 something.
Yeah. Well, no, it was like early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
Mid 2000s.
Yeah. So like it was going like, I mean, we did we did WordPress site like right when it first came out. And that was like 04, 03, something like that. I don't know, somewhere around that area. But like hearing these stories is kind of funny because like I've seen like so many versions of that, whether, you know, I mean, I was in the ad agency world, not the media side. So we would have probably been at different bars. Yeah, you know,
there were definitely bars for the bloggers.
Yeah. Right.
They were not
exactly.
the same bars as the bars for the journalists or for the, you know, more pedigreed print journalists. We were, you know, we were the ragtag, like screw the man kind of group. And that was fun for a while. But then I found myself, you know, I launched the digital edition of Newsweek, and I found myself getting pigeonholed into this role where it's like, well, she understands the technology and the internet and she does editorial. So she'll lead our legacy media brand into the digital age. And that's just, that's false advertising. I mean, nobody has successfully done that. The New York Times is the closest, but they're making money from, you know, recipes and Wordle. So
yeah,
it was a pipe
Wordle.
dream.
And,
I
fucking
did
thing
that for a couple of months.
No, no judgment. Not my thing, but no judgment. Make money. Like take that money, New York Times. You know?
Yeah.
So I start working. I'm like, you know what I love in addition to media is tech. And I start going and working with startups. And I start learning about tech startups. Now, you know, tech startups in New York, I'm sure New Yorkers are going to get upset at me for saying this, but it's based on everything I've seen. Tech startups in New York are not the same as tech startups in California. Like it's just a different thing. But I learned a lot. And I started in 2013, started my own company, a content strategy firm that was like, look, every tech startup and every legacy brand needs storytelling and is kind of becoming a media brand in and of itself. I can offer those services. I know how to deal with this market, and I know how to launch editorial with a business bend. So I saw the opportunity. I started the company. The company did pretty well. It paid a very nice salary. It paid me a very nice salary for several years. I had a small team. And then, you know, look, my life, for lack of a better phrase, has a BC and an AD. And it's all, I get married. I'm in my early 30s. I wanted to start a family. I wanted to start a family arguably more than anything else because I prioritized it over a lot of other things. And I have some early term losses. I, you know, stick with it, blah, blah, blah. I finally get pregnant. And on August 15th, 2014, I go into labor. I'm about a week from my due date. I go into labor. And my first marriage was very troubled. So I go to the hospital in a cab alone. I get to the hospital and the doctors inform me, you are about to have a baby and your baby has unfortunately just died. And they never found a reason. And they also told me you have to go through with delivering her or you could die too. Your life could be in danger too. So the best way I can describe that, I'm able to talk about it, you know, over 10 years later. The best way I can describe that is if you picture my soul as a glass bottle and you drop it from a 5th story balcony, that's what everything about me looked like when it hit the ground. My life just continued on a downward spiral after that day. My marriage fell apart. I kept everything together with duct tape. I ran the company on autopilot and literally just pasted my life together with duct tape because I was so dead set on having another baby, because I was convinced that the only thing that would heal me, that would make life even remotely something I wanted to live, was to have another baby. And in some ways I wasn't wrong, but I was vastly oversimplifying. I did get pregnant again about a year and a half later. I had been running the company on autopilot, and I get pregnant about a year and a half later, and I get to the second trimester and I lose that pregnancy as well. So that's when I hit that, they talk about rock bottom. That was rock bottom. I just went, this life in New York is over. Like, God can't give me any bigger sign than this. Like, what else needs to happen here? I'm done. Fin. And it was a huge moment, because it was a reclamation of me saying, you know what? Opportunity cost can be a bitch here, but I'm going to lay it all down. And I, for the first time in my life, I'm just going to surrender, and I'm going to give it up and see where this journey takes me. I did it with a little drama and flair. I gave away most of my possessions on a Brooklyn stoop. I had to go to the storage facility on Atlantic Avenue and clean out all of my daughter's never used things, clean out the nursery and donate most of them. I kept the big box of books, baby books and children's books that either had been mine or that people had given me. And I said, I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know where, but my living child is going to read these books. And I took them with me. And I had developed PTSD. And so, Western medicine had basically told me, well, here's a prescription. You'll be on this for life and you'll never carry another baby. So just adjust your expectations for your life, because you're kind of done. And
I mean, what a completely quintessential and fucked up thing to say to a human being in that particular point.
I could give you so many.
No, I mean, we've heard a million of them too. I just, that was more of a universal commentary.
Quite often in my clinic.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers that's like the best we got. Right.
Well, it's not the best we got.
Well,
no, it's the mainstream take
that's
on
what I
it.
meant.
Yeah.
Mainstream.
Yeah.
We ding psychedelics. No, psychedelics weren't my main path, but I have look. I just have this personality and have had it since birth. And if there's any karma, my younger daughter has this personality, so now I'm like, oh boy. If you tell me you can't do that, you'll never do that, I'll be like, fuck you, hold my ear and watch me.
Right.
And I will go to the ends of the earth to prove you wrong and to get what I want. So today,
you love it when your daughter has that trait, right? Like that's probably real endearing when you're like, God damn it.
I think it's some kind of karmic payback, to be honest.
It's total karmic payback. She's like butt naked. She gets butt naked in the house and she's like, Mommy, I want to go out and play basketball. And I'm like, you must put on clothes if you are going to go. She's like, fuck you. She didn't say fuck you, but like
she's thinking it.
Give her a couple of years. Give her a couple of years.
She finds her way, she's 3. She's 3.
Oh, yeah.
Give her to like 5. Yeah.
Yeah, give her to like 5 and then she's telling you to fuck off.
I have a video on my phone that I will not share publicly of her. She's totally naked out there shooting baskets.
Oh, God.
F you, Mom. Don't tell me I can't do something.
That's funny.
So, I get her. We get each other.
Yeah.
I went to the ends of the earth and back, finding alternative healing strategies, Eastern medicine, shamanic healing. I trained in multiple modalities of alternative medicine and energy healing. And I wound up in Charleston, South Carolina, in this kind of under the Tuscan sun thing where the last thing that I had was a house. My first husband had been from the South and I had taken all my money and put it into this house in Charleston. And now it was supposed to be the house where we moved with our second miracle baby. And now I'm there alone. And on the one hand, that was horrific because I'm here alone and I have to face all the tragedy and trauma. And I have a box of my daughter, my first child's ashes. And I'm just, it was brutal. But Charleston, it can be a very brutal and extremely racist place. It can also be a very spiritual and healing place. And I rejuvenated enough through food, through nature, through walking through graveyards. I mean, here's a story. This is a true story. I would walk at night because nights were just rough. They were rough. It was just me, the darkness, and pain. So I would walk, and Charleston's kind of like a mini Manhattan. It's a peninsula. You can walk almost the whole thing. And there are graveyards interspersed all throughout Charleston. There's this sort of deep relationship with the dead. I don't know if you've seen or read Midnight in the Garden.
Never been. No.
Check it out. It's good food. But like Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil is about Savannah, but very similar vibe. So I find myself at this graveyard in the French Quarter outside this historic church, and there are some tourists taking photos. And I was like, I bet this is a ghost tour thing. That's big in Charleston. And I asked them, oh, what are you guys taking photos of? And they go, oh yeah, the women and the baby. And I was like, what? So I go home, I Google it. I swear to God, this is on Google. There was a woman, Sue Hardy. I believe it was 1788 or might have been 1888. She gave birth to a baby who died at birth. She died 6 days later. They are both buried in that cemetery. Wow. And everyone says that on the anniversary of the baby's birth, her ghost appears to visit her child. There are pictures of her on the internet. I don't know if they're real or not. I don't know if it's a real ghost.
Makes for a hell of a tour, though.
We got to get our ghost hunter guest back here and maybe do an on-site thing.
I want to know.
We had, Caitlin Duffy. You should check it out. Wait, she was one of our earlier guests, actually. She did a lot of work for the Discovery Channel with the Ghost Hunter show.
She refused to tell us the name of the show, but she said it was the one that was started by the Plumbers.
Yeah.
Which so I think was the first one to come out. And, when then we, she kind of burst our bubble a little because I'll watch that in Ancient Aliens and be like, I'm not buying into this, but they're saying it with such conviction. But she said the first, that first one they were like legit. They were actually trying to do something. They funded their own show. And then the other ones that came after it was just a bunch of douches with some night vision goggles.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. But I would love to know like a ghost expert's take on Sue Hardy. But look, regardless.
I wish I'd known that.
All right, now, like every time somebody says something, I got this notepad right here and I write down names. I'm going to be Googling Sue Hardy and we're going to find some psychic in Charleston and see what we can find out.
Please do, because that was such a powerful, whether it's real or not, honestly, doesn't even matter. It was such a powerful moment for me because I was just like, oh my God, I'm not totally alone in this. If ever there were signs, this is a sign. And
I just looked it up and there is in fact a picture of somebody bowing over the grave at,
now you're going to make me do it now.
It's a thing, Melissa. I'm going to look at this article. There's like a whole page on it, as you might imagine. There's
I know.
several.
I've Googled.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you can make a deep fake of Elvis talking about. I mean, who knows?
Only recently can you do that. That wasn't like that all the time. But anyway, all right. So you're in Charleston. It's nighttime.
The money's running out. I'm like, I have no idea where my life is going. I got a call out of the blue from a couple guys I knew who are like, we've just signed this big contract with Facebook. We don't know how to fulfill it. You want to go out there? And I'm like, well, I got nothing on my schedule. So cut to, I'm in a conference room in Menlo Park with, Mark Zuckerberg's team and the communications team of Facebook. And what they brought me on to do on contract was basically work with Facebook. This was 2016 and 2017. It's ironic now, but at that time, they wanted to tell this kinder, gentler, more human story of all of the great things that people were using Facebook for. So I helped launch the Facebook Social Good Forum and the Facebook Community Summit. And look, the way I describe me at Facebook, remember how Gloria Steinem worked as a Playboy bunny at the Playboy Mansion so she could write about it in this magazine? Like, that's how I felt the whole time at Facebook. Like, well, okay, like clearly women are discouraged from ever dressing in any kind of feminine way. I'm going to go wear a backless sundress with a fringe shawl and see what happens.
That's hilarious.
That was kind of my vibe working at Facebook. But I managed, I was just okay enough to do good work and to keep up with the extremely grueling pace and the extremely demanding. Like, there is a very high bar. If you are not delivering at Facebook, they will boot you out. So I had to bring it, and I worked on these projects And another amazing thing happened, which was I start talking to these women to launch the first Facebook Community Summit. And what are some of the biggest communities on Facebook are groups. So, okay, who are the admins of the biggest groups on Facebook? Well, a lot of them are women and mothers groups. And what are the biggest issues in these mothers groups? Infertility, miscarriage, birth trauma, stillbirth, infant loss, postpartum issues. Then you get into lack of parental leave, being deranked in the workforce, issues with trying to juggle the money of childcare. I mean, it just went on and on and on. So the culmination of that, I got 3 powerful women admins of women's groups on stage with Mark Zuckerberg in front of 50 members of the press and a couple hundred people talking about things like miscarriage, because Mark Zuckerberg and his wife had just suffered 3 miscarriages before having their first child. Happens to billionaires too. So it was kind of like I through tech, I tapped into this well of universal pain for women. And that was very powerful. And I just kind of went, all right, I have to trust that I am on the right path here. I have no idea where this life goes. And keep in mind, I was 38. So it's not like I was a spring chicken for all this. And I'm getting a divorce, and I'm back on the dating market in San Francisco at the age of 38. That was interesting. I'll tell you. Oh boy, this is can I tell a vulgar story?
It's called Irreverent Health. We have allowances.
One every other day.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, San Francisco, look, it's an amazing place. Stunningly beautiful.
I grew up in Vallejo. I know all about San Francisco.
I love it. Yeah. And just this incredible energy for emerging ideas and how to create a new world and things like that. It can also very much veer into the extremely creepy. And there's a lot of like sex cult stuff that goes on. And I meet this man, and I figure out he's like, you need dating coaching. What you need is dating coaching. He wasn't wrong. I did need dating coaching. I'm someone that
is dating.
It's coaching? Somebody that's like giving you signals, like you're at the table and they're doing like fucking baseball signals behind.
It was more basic than that. You guys are funny. Yeah. It was more basic than that. It was look, I'm Silicon Valley trained. I'm a first principles thinker. I thought that I was very good. I look at the results. Okay. I thought I was very good at relationships. Look at the results of my first marriage. Mm-hmm. Clearly, I'm not very good at relationships. So I need some help. And like, he did teach me, hey,
N of 1 isn't a huge sample size to be taking your bad marriage
how many
skills.
times did somebody get married? Like, how many sample sizes do you get?
Not many, I guess.
You want to know something? And this is probably going to come back to bite me in the ass saying it on air. My mother-in-law was on 6, and that one ended. So who knows? Lucky number 7.
Did she have prenups? Like that
no, I mean most of them weren't even like half of them weren't.
Funny enough, she's a billionaire.
Oh yeah, no,
she didn't start that way.
No. Honestly, most of them were younger than her.
No.
Good for her.
Yeah.
No.
That's hilarious.
If we want to get back into the trauma, we can open up that Pandora's box. But let's not air somebody else's laundry when they can't curse me right on air live.
Yeah. That's funny.
I'm busy with my own. I don't mess with another woman's life. But he did, he ran these classes, and I would take these classes. But then it became apparent pretty quickly that he's actually trying to run a sex cult, and he expects me to sleep with him. And I was like, there is 0 chance that is ever going to happen.
How successful was he, and does he have a book?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably got some self-published book.
Yeah. And
he would recruit people.
I never got that. Maybe I'm not a joiner. I don't know.
The thing that we can talk about cults, I've studied cults. The thing about cults is they always have some great grain of truth. Otherwise, nobody would join them.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just the grain of truth gets wrapped up in all of the cultish nonsense. And
our first episode was on orgasmic meditation, which was basically a cult of dudes who convinced women to sit in stirrups and rub their clit for 20 times in a counterclockwise.
Totally not sexual, by
some
the way.
Other fucking
totally not sexual.
Bananas.
What?
And by the way, if you go through the training, you have a dude show up at your house, completely platonic.
Thank you.
you let them into your apartment by yourself, and they put on a rubber glove and rub your clit for 20 minutes. Nothing's gonna happen. It'll be fine.
Yeah. What
Totally
what
chill.
could go wrong? Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
Pass on that thing.
Yeah.
But so finally I tell him, look, dude, like, thanks for the lessons. I'm out. And he starts giving, when you try to leave one of these things, he starts giving me the hard sell. And his big final line in his hard sell to me, and this is a true story, he goes, if you need to stick with me, because by the time I'm done with you, you could have any man that you want. You could have Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I looked at him. I didn't say this, but I wish I had. It was in my head. I wouldn't fuck either of you with Maureen Bobbitt.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fuck you with Elon's dick.
Yeah.
What universe are like? There is zero universe.
Right.
I come from a family of mental illness. I know borderline personality disorder when I see it. I know narcissistic personality.
I mean, he wasn't hiding it ever, was he?
No, it's been obvious. His father is deeply borderline. I don't know. I don't want to armchair diagnose other people.
Let's do it.
Like,
we do it all the time.
Let's do it. Let's ask Chat GPT, by the way.
And I was just like, I wouldn't touch that fucking dude. It was 10 people. So I'm like, I think it's time to get out of San Francisco. I don't think I'm going to create the life and the family that I want here. So
had you sold Charleston already?
I still owned the house in Charleston. I was renting it out, but then I moved to LA, and I did that in the most intuitively guided, no rhyme or reason decision I've ever made. I just came down to LA and I said, I feel good here. I have no job here. I have no reason to move here. I don't think I know anyone here, but I feel good here. And I felt bad. I felt so bad for so many years that when I feel good, it actually really registers, which is a gift. Like, I was able to hold those kinds of intuitive messages in my body because everything had been such hell for so long. So I come down to LA, and LA really does have an incredible medical culture, an incredible spiritual healing and alternative healing culture. And so I find my way to some practitioners. And what I realized, I wasn't okay. I had been okay enough to do the contract at Facebook, but I was not okay. So I had to shut things down and do intensive trauma therapy it's tough because you shut things down and you kind of go in the chrysalis and you can't come out till you're a butterfly, but you don't know how long it's going to take to become a butterfly. So you're in the chrysalis and you're like, when the fuck am I? Holy shit, it's been 6 months. When am I going to be butterfly? Well, you got to keep going. There is no way through but through. So I finally get well enough to kind of come back into the world, and I meet my partner. And then, boom, we're pregnant. And a week later, it's pandemic lockdown.
Wow.
And that wound up being an incredible blessing for me, because the only way that I could feel safe during pregnancy was if the entire rest of the world was shut down. That just brought me psychological safety. And we started an AI company in our apartment, because what the hell else are you going to do? And so October of 2020, have successfully make it. I mean, you want to talk about daily battles with God. I like to liken everything to a movie reference or a book reference. That's just me. And it was every day was that scene in Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan climbs the mast of the shrimping boat in the hurricane and he's screaming at God like, you won't take this boat. That was me with that baby every day. So I finally make it and I have my baby, and she's the most extraordinary miracle, and everyone's crying. And I mean, these doctors, this time around, I chose my doctors like Harvard chooses incoming freshmen. I was like, there will be an interview. There will be an aptitude test.
I mean, good for you, though. I mean, it's like,
I feel like everybody just goes, this guy's got the right letters. Let's go there,
Absolutely not. I learned, the Harvard Medical School degree certainly didn't make any difference from my first child. So I unlearned all of that. It's not just East Coast, but it's very prevalent in the East Coast. Like, oh, well, there's pedigree, so therefore they must know something I don't. No, they don't. They just got into Harvard. I know so many morons from Harvard.
Yeah.
Right.
They all just
they're called legacy too.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to say everyone from Harvard, but I am trying to say that they over rely on their affiliation.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, there's idiots just about everywhere.
That's very true.
But you're right.
They're wealthy. They're wealthy idiots.
And you know what though? I mean, it's funny. Like I said, I grew up on the West Coast, lived on the East Coast for a really long time, and you're absolutely right. There is like that. I don't know, like some kind of like illness that they have over here that basically is like, oh yeah, Harvard, great. They literally stop listening. Like, you know, I mean, in New York City, how many times they're like, oh, just go to NYU, like just generically, like, okay, well, fucking NYU is a big fucking hospital. And like, who exactly? Well, no, they have got the greatest oncology there. Just go there. I'm
but
like,
that's the same in Baltimore. It's like,
yeah,
go to Hopkins, go to Hopkins, go to Hopkins.
Yeah.
Who at Hopkins specifically?
And why are you sending me there? Right? Like, I mean, like, what is there any reason, or is it just the word Hopkins, like, or
New
NYU?
York is high on its own supply. New York really believes its own bullshit.
Oh, Baltimore's not different.
I feel like, but I feel like that flavor might be different everywhere. It might be about a certain topic or a certain thing, but I feel like that's everywhere. Like, we've got the best this, we do the best. Like, it's very like you know, that culture you're in wants to own that.
I don't get that in LA.
Oh,
first
see,
of all, so
because I've been asked to move out to LA. Oh, you'll do so good out here. I'm like, no, fuck that. You guys are too soft. You know, like I can't. You know, kid gloves everything.
That's fair. I mean,
you can't kid glove anything. What are you talking
about? Oh no, but what I'm saying is like, look, at some point I'm going to tell you I think you just said the dumbest thing, and I don't know how to say that in a way that's not going to get you to punch me in the face. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, look, man, we could do that, but that sounds stupid as fuck. It's going to come out of my mouth, and you're probably bigger and meaner than me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go into Inglewood or Compton and say that.
No, but like honestly, they more likely respect my honesty.
Yeah.
They're not full of their own bullshit. You know, they're more real. Yeah. They're like, no, you called me out there. That's I respect that.
I mean, what I found with LA is, look, I like to go create my own little
group,
system, my own enclave that is like city adjacent. And I moved by the beach. I was like, I'm not going to live in LA. I'm going to live by the beach, and I will be LA adjacent. And so that's where I had the first baby. And then, look, the other thing I learned is biohacking. I learned how to biohack because I hit 40 and I had nothing. No husband, no living children, very little money, no assets, no community, very, very few friends at that point. No job, no, clear career path, nothing. And I just went, fuck them, not putting an expiration date on me because I am a woman turning 40. And I'm not going to age either because fuck everything. So I set about biohacking my fertility and aging, and I figured out how to do it very successfully. You want to know how I know that? Because I had 2 babies back to back, almost not accidentally, but with zero fertility assistance, zero medical anything. 6 months after having my oldest living daughter, I'm pregnant again. Like, just what? Like, wait, what? And so we get out of the pandemic, 2 babies under 2 and a startup. And it's like you climb an Everest and you hit the top of the Everest and then you're like, holy shit, there's a whole another Everest next to climb that's even bigger than this one. And that's been the last few years, building an AI company while raising the babies. And look, extraordinary opportunities for learning. I've gotten to get into rooms that I couldn't get into before because I don't know, because I'm a woman, who knows, but I'm able to get into a lot more rooms and learn now. So now I have the confidence and the know-how to go found my own. And I have my product based on my own experience. And I'm 46 and I don't age. And look, LA is a good town for that. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But I don't, look, I haven't had plastic surgery. I don't sort of carve myself up or anything like that. I do it through intuitive-led nutrition, skincare, supplements, exercise, etc. I don't see specialists. I do everything through intuitive guidance and biohacking, using myself as a data point. And AI can do that so effectively for us. So that's the next thing I'm going to go build.
Yeah. And as you know, I'm very passionate about that particular rabbit hole. I think all this stuff that we're currently talking about in AI will when we look back on it, will be the equivalent of like pulling
Ethernet.
a rabbit out of a hat or an Ethernet jack, like this hokey thing that was like not really a thing. And now all of a sudden, like, because when you look at the lens of what our world looks like in 5 years from now, it's going to be largely unrecognizable. And I think that us being able to have a show that makes fun of the blatant ineptitudes of the current healthcare system is going to be not really possible, because I feel like this problem starts to dissolve with AI. Like AI was sent here to fix this problem.
Well, how
like,
long?
you know
how
what I mean?
long until it goes from like, oh, that Dr. Google in your pocket, and you hear that argument from physicians, where it's like, no, AI was right, and like, I mean, it's already happening.
Well, we have somebody coming on the show with a AI primary care physician product.
Interesting.
And I watched a demo of theirs, and I cannot wait to talk to this guy, because, you know, I don't want to ruin it for the show, but he had a family member pass away from a misdiagnosis, and it affected him greatly. And he basically was self-funded a couple $1 million AI startup that worked on solving primary care. Wow. And his holistic approach is basically makes it so that even if you opened up your app and you're like, dude, I just had Montezuma's Revenge, like, it knows what that means, what to ask next. You know, like it goes down the list. And it's not that long. It's certainly not as invasive as like a doctor clumsily fumbling around with questions until they kind of find a thread to pull on, and then they kind of go down. But the problem with that is what? That thread is usually their first reaction, which is largely just whatever came into their head first. And they kind of don't have an open mind after that. Right? Like, it's sort of like, oh no, this has got to be that. And this thing is not, and it's out diagnosing. And I don't quote me on this, because I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was out diagnosing something like 80%. Like, it was a staggering number. It wasn't like they were casually better at it. It was like, no, they fucking blew the doors off of it. It was like, including a nonverbal 6-month-old, I believe, was one of their case studies.
Wow.
Where the mom put in the symptoms, and the EMTs said one thing, and it ended up being like a fairly serious cardiac infection that the AI caught. And who knows, but the kid lived, but like, it was a cardiac infection or something of that magnitude of a 6-month-old. It couldn't have been good news, right? You know, like, so if that had gone undiagnosed for another month, who the fuck knows, right? Like, and you don't want to roll that dice, right? Like, I mean, that's,
absolutely do not.
Yeah. So, but that's my point. Like, so that's a V10. Now, fast forward that 5 years to a V20, right? That is something where it's not even going to be like, I'll tell you what, I'm here on his MVP, and I almost don't want to get any diagnosis without asking this tool. Like, that's how much I was like, no,
that second opinion.
This fucking AI is my second opinion. And candidly, I might trust it more.
Like,
you know,
I'm from a family of doctors. I would, if you give me AI that has like strong efficacy and results like that, I would absolutely trust the AI more than I would trust doctors.
Well, and it does all the things doctors can. It's got an infinite memory, so it'll remember your birth records as much as your death record and everything in between. And it has an infinite capacity to learn more. You want to put the latest update to the DCM or whatever in there, great. You can upload that PDF. Now I'm updated. Like, I got every fucking new code. What, you know, like a new, you could hook it up to Google Scholar and scrape that once a month inside of a knowledge base. I mean, you could literally do anything you fucking want. It's infinite, right? nobody is that. No human is ever going to be that, right? Like ever.
Well,
It's like
even the best one is going to have a bad day. They're going to have a fight with somebody. They're going to have something that's throwing them off. They're not going to sleep the night before. Even like, because we were talking about this, I believe once with even like the robot surgery, right? Yeah, it's weird, but
is it?
You know, that robot didn't have too much caffeine and is a little shaky this morning. You know, it's.
I just don't. I don't have that distrust of robots. I just don't. I don't.
No, I don't.
I think it's the sci-fi genre that possibly did this to us.
The dystopian sort of Hollywood view, but like, I have 2 young daughters. I'm like, there is 0 chance that I ever let a teenage boy drive them. There is waymo.
Well, hopefully by the time they get, there won't be cars. There won't be a steering wheel in the damn car.
Yeah, good. I do not want that. I mean, the other thing, quite frankly, we know this now, but when I was going through the worst of the grief and trauma was 10 and a half years ago, and this wasn't as popularly known. But like Meta just had that internal paper that revealed if you like 10 things on his Instagram, the algorithm will know you better than your closest friends. If you like 100 things on Instagram, the algorithm will know you better than you know yourself. Honestly, you want to know the one thing that truly helped me even just begin the journey into alternative medicine, energy healing, Eastern medicine, etc., was algorithms, because they started to figure out, oh, whoa, she is on a totally different track than she was 3 weeks ago. Like, what? You know, at first, Facebook was a very cruel place because Facebook was serving me ads for diapers and breast pumps. Because there was just there was no way to stop the algorithm. The algorithm knew I'd been pregnant and just assumed that I had had a baby, or a living baby, and there was nothing. So Facebook became this very unsafe place. But over time, the algorithm started showing me very different things that I never would have known to search for, and that were exactly what I needed when I needed it. Algorithms are such good pattern matchers. And look, every human being is an individual special snowflake. However, we all run on a somewhat similar operating system. We're all made of the same stuff. Our psychology runs in certain patterns, and a well-built algorithm will know those patterns. At this point, women are starting to get savvy about this for relationships. A lot of men run on patterns. Are you anxious attachment? Are you avoidant attachment? Do you show signs of narcissism? Are you blah, blah, blah? Like, these are patterns of psychology. And if you fit into them, we're going to be able to very accurately predict how you're going to handle certain situations, what you're going to be looking for at a certain time, what you're going to buy, or what you're more likely to buy, what you're more likely to engage in. And algorithms really do a fantastic job of that. And they were a healing path for me during that time, not intentionally, but they were. So again, like I'm building that into my product. It's not something that you can be so pointed about, but you build an algorithm well. You guys know this.
She kind of sounds like Daniel Tolson. So Daniel used Meta or the Amazon. I don't, all the people talking to Amazon to develop this voice diagnostic software. And he came on
90
seconds of talking into the phone, and he came on, and Matt and I are like, it's going to be, some kind of thing where it's like a fortune teller, and it's, it's a variation of the same thing. And we're going to have it's going to say, and it was like, he did me, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm leaning into this a little bit too much. And Matt's eyes kind of lit up, and then he did Matt, and I'm like, oh shit. No, we are completely different. And he pinged us, and he was talking about.
Yeah, it's like $47. So I'll give you the link to it. It's like, and it's not like an affiliate thing. It's just literally, it's so cheap.
It was so cheap. I even bought the sound therapy that you're supposed to listen to for a month, because that was under $100. And that's off the shelf. That's not customized to you. But he gives you this report, tells you about your chakras. When I did the $97 version, he sat down with me. He goes, do you know what your enneagram is? And I'm like, I don't know if I believe in that. And he goes, here you go. This is you. And I was like, motherfucker, he's right about that. Yeah. I was like mad that he was right about everything. And then because I'm a clinician, he's like, you want to see what suicidal people look like? And he starts pulling up files of people that have done this and shows their chakra profile. It was so bizarre.
And that was what I found so interesting. And this is, Melissa, this is like kind of full circle back to what you're talking about. In 5 years from now, that secret will be out and will be woven into even the dumbest baseline thing imaginable. Eventually, and you know, all the content management systems, and I know this is a weird jump, but like 10, 15, 20 years ago, all the content management systems looked entirely different. Now, fast forward now, they all look almost indistinguishable from one another. Why is that? Fucking algorithms. The algorithm tells the world that this is what people will use as software. This is what people expect as a save button to look like. Guess what every save button looks like? The exact fucking same. We don't come up with cute new icons. We don't come up with like, you know, like I made a joke to a client. I said, you know, icon design used to be good until the last person designed the ones we use now, and we're just on those now for the rest of time,
forever,
because these are what people know what a trash bin looks like.
Well, there'll be hieroglyphs at some point.
Hieroglyphs, yeah.
It'll be the same thing, though. I mean, we'll be using them for so long. Even the save button that looks like an old school floppy disk. I remember seeing a post where somebody was like, "Oh, look, somebody 3D printed the save icon," and it was literally just the fucking 5.5 inch floppy disk.
That's
and I'm like,
hilarious.
You asshole, that holds at least 2 or 3 megabytes.
Yeah. But that's what these tools are going to look like in 5 years, Melissa. It's going to just basically be in your phone, and you're going to talk into it, and it's going to be like, oh, based on your voice pattern and what I've already known about you, and by the way, I'm connected to a piss test in your toilet.
China already has that urinal, by the way.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden, here's what you got. You've got bronchitis. Go fucking.
No, you won't even have to go. It's going to show up at your mailbox by the time you get back to the house, you know.
They'll connect with DoorDash. They'll do a licensing deal with DoorDash.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where this all ends up. So like, this is a cool tech, and I think it's cool that we get to play with it because we're on the show and we get to have people like him on the show. But like the amount of hymns out there right now, and like because I know a bit about your project, and I think it's fucking awesome, and I can't wait. I hope
have
you guys
back
can get that going
when it's more public.
Yeah, it's very sort of women and feminine focused.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Guys can use it. All men can use it as well. There is no gender.
I'm very in touch with.
Yeah,
good.
That was actually one of the things that came out of my Daniel Tolson.
Yeah, we were both emotionally balanced.
We were both emotionally balanced, which is interesting.
Honestly, that puts you in the top 1% of men today. Like the epidemic of emotional imbalance and emotional dysregulation among men.
Oh, dude, yeah, especially like people my son's age, man. Those kids are lost, bro. Like, I mean, it's a whole nother level of dysfunction on an emotional level.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be, I don't know, maybe there's AI for that.
Well,
AI therapy is remarkably popular.
They're probably just going to get AI sex robots and never leave their room.
Yeah.
That might be healthier for everybody.
I mean, we lose a generation. I don't know. I mean, the men are not okay, and I don't have a great answer for that. I am a girl mom.
And we keep trying to detangle that web, but like, again, to your algorithm point, it's tough to fight that, right? You just can't do it. It's like somebody that swats your hand out of your mouth when you're biting your nails. You just want to punch them in the fucking face. And like, you can't tell somebody to stop poisoning their brain with the phone, because to them, they're just watching fucking sewing videos or cat videos or whatever the fuck they're watching.
If you try to take dopamine away from somebody, expect that, like that is a feel good thing. Don't stop me from feeling good.
Can I go a little Nostradamus for a moment? I'm a systems thinker, and I like to go up to 50,000 feet. Mm-hmm. I don't like to necessarily like look at problems on the ground because it makes me feel overwhelmed. 50,000 feet. The biggest thing that people have said to me, how have you overcome something that nobody's supposed to overcome? Like when you lose a baby at birth, like you're supposed to be done. How have you overcome it? And the big answer is, I had a purpose that was greater than my pain. And I think men, boys, everyone needs a purpose greater than the cheap dopamine and greater than the pain, because they're in a lot of pain. And I don't know what the purpose is yet. Maybe we're heading towards the downfall of American society, and there's going to be some I don't know. Maybe there's going to be some military action that requires a lot of men to, soldier up and I don't know, but like, it just seems like they need something that's greater than cheap dopamine and an okay but mediocre life. Where we have bed in circuses and iPhones and air conditioning, but we have lost connection with our souls and our soul's purpose. Maybe it's AI. I don't know. Maybe there's like AI brings the next Great Depression, and people have to really relearn what work is in order to get out of it. I don't know, but I think there might be some like black swan event or something that jolts society out of this wounded complacency where it's like, what you can't take away my iPhone and whatever, I get my likes on Instagram and I ghost on dating apps, but whatevs, everybody does it. Like, these are really shallow ways to live. They just are. These are not connection with your soul. These are not connection with your purpose in this world, and they're not connection with your zone of genius. I mean, honestly, isn't finding your zone of genius and then getting up every day and doing it better than cheap dopamine? I think it is.
Yeah, but I feel like that illusion is so strong. Like like almost the marketing allure to it, where it's like the idea is, you are that highlight reel you post. And that shadow person that you're putting out into the world is supposedly the best version of you. So you lean into that.
But then we're not really giving grace to the fact that everyone has a shadow side.
Yeah. I mean, they keep going back to Plato's The Cave with all of this, right? Like, this is the reality. And whether it's us projecting it in our own little social media app, or it's society and we're trying to do something greater, but we don't even know we're stuck in a cave. It's the same. It's just maybe our own delusion. Maybe illusion. I don't know. Both kind of work.
Yeah.
I mean, really, reality is like
what you're laying down. I got you.
If you're only in a hyperbolic marketing world all the time, like, you're just getting sold a dream of better, whatever that is. And it's real nebulous, but it can shift if the iPhone's coming out.
And I wasn't attacking marketing, by the way, but I think
but it's fair.
The look, I'm going to tell you what you need so you're happy. Right.
But by contrast, though, if you look at advertising in the 50s, it was really like, okay, you could have this TV dinner because you're a hard worker, because you know
earned
what I mean?
it.
Like,
yeah,
you earned it, right? Like, it wasn't that there was an aspirational thing. It was like, here's how you reward yourself for kicking ass at whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Now it's just the reward, and the whole idea of working for it is completely gone.
Yeah.
And the number one example we can see on this, Melissa, you'd understand this, is like, all these kids that see how much money these YouTube people make, right? And TikTokers make. And some of them are making exorbitant amounts of money, obviously. But the reality is for every one of those people that goes in and you're like, oh, they made a 7-figure marketing deal for 2 episodes and like they're making just fucking printing money, right? And I'm like, yeah, but they work like 80 hours a week. They've got a team of 40, like, and they're spending
and there was
hundreds of thousands
they
of dollars
also
a month.
Figured a way to start getting those first likes that 99% of the people that are on YouTube are definitely not going to do. It's the same thing as like, oh, look, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to play professional whatever sport, right?
Right.
Like, you can be damn good, right? Yeah, even music, right? How many damn good musicians are out there? But you're like, you're never selling out arenas. You're going to play in a cover band. Right. Why? Because you just haven't. You're missing that one thing. You're not looking the right thing, and that's the same thing with YouTube. You're absolutely right. I mean, my 11-year-old was like, "Can I start a channel?" And I'm like, go ahead, but you're not to show your face. You're going to do a faceless one. And she was like, all right, she's going to craft, but still it's that dream. It's just that version for that generation,
I think the key thing that you said there, I think that's extremely insightful. And the key thing that I think both of you said there is they want the results without the work.
Dude, like, I went took my kids
everything exceptional takes work, and it takes so much more work than you think it does. It takes a lot of work for me to look like this at 46. I love doing it, but it takes a lot of work. If you want the results, it took a lot of work to become a fertile myrtle at the ages of 42 and 43. It took an enormous amount of work. And I did things that most people are unwilling to do. And thus I got the result. But I had to work. It's, you know, Kim Kardashian got in a lot of trouble for saying like almost exactly the same thing a few years ago in an interview. Oh, you're tone deaf. But she wasn't wrong. She was like, look, you want a career like mine? You got to put in the work. That woman works, pardon the pun, works her butt off.
Sure.
Like, you might not, you know, you might not think it's work. You might look down on it. It doesn't matter. It's work.
Sure.
You've got to put that in and also be willing to do what other people are not in order to separate yourself from the crowd and in order to reach the level of success. And I think we have lost that connection to the hard work equaling the results because of the insta everything.
Yeah. I took my kids to go see Dude Perfect. They came to Baltimore.
What's that?
They're like the first generation of YouTube, like billionaires. Like it was a bunch of guys, I think a little older than us.
Wow.
But they started doing like chip shots into champagne glasses at 50 yards, you know, like stuff like that. So we they do a fucking great show. It's actually very entertaining. They have dialed in their ICP, man. Like they know kids like nobody's fucking business. Like it is like, they know exactly what a 9-year-old boy wants to see in an arena. And they give it to him on a platter in spades, right? So, but anyway, at the end, show's over. They're showing Be Real. They did a basketball shot off the top of the stratosphere in Vegas, right? Dropped a basketball off the roof. How many times do you think it took? They show the film. It's a 4-second film. Okay, you ready? Yep. Okay, good.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
And that was the whole video.
50?
1,024.
Wow.
They threw that basketball over 1,000 times.
The same one survived that many.
No. They had a bucket of them and they just kept bringing up more.
Yeah.
Like they did over 1,000 basketball shots to make a 4-second video.
Wow.
And I told my kids look at me, they're like, holy shit, 1,000? And I was like, and by the way, they cut the video. So it was like, they showed it after 50, after 200, after 400, like, you know, like, so their Be Real was like, fuck, I missed it again, you know? And I'm like, dude, they're not better than anybody. They just would relentlessly outwork your slow ass. That is it. There is no other.
I do want to say something that I've learned in startup land and in Silicon Valley. Working smarter is way more important than working harder. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done that 1,000 times. If it took 1,000 reps, then it took 1,000 reps. That is what it is. But I have also found in Silicon Valley the sort of myth of like, well, the grind and the horsepower and the 80-hour week. No, the most successful found like it's not. You have to be working smarter and doing the right work and leveling up and seeing what it. That being said, that's all work too. It's an enormous amount of work to know, okay, it's time to stop doing that work. It's time to transition into a whole new type of work. I mean, I like to say, I think Silicon Valley's got it all wrong. I was so instantly deranked and sort of pushed aside as soon as I became a mother. And I was like, you idiots have it all wrong. Becoming a mother has made me better at this. Like it made me way better at startups. Because it taught me just, a startup is not a child, but there are overlaps as there are with anything. And you don't parent a 1-year-old child the same way you parent a 5-year-old child. You don't run a 1-year-old company the same way you run a 5-year-old company. You have to know how to read the room, make changes, adjust, level up, change things up. You have to have that EQ. And you have to have those quote unquote soft skills. I hate that phrase, and soft skills will become incredibly valuable in the era of AI because AI can be programmed to have soft skills. That's why AI therapy is kind of doing well. I mean, one thing also I will say for AI therapy, I went to support groups when, I'm suffering from PTSD and severe trauma. And I went to a support group for, parents of who had lost infants. And there was an NYPD detective who was what he and his wife had just lost. And he had served in combat situations. And he was like, yeah, this is way worse trauma than what we had in combat. But he also said, look, like I see a lot of combat veterans and they like these VR. They like VR therapy because they can talk freely with a simulacrum of a person. They're not talking to a blank screen. It's a simulacrum of a person, but it's not a person. And they can talk openly about the horrors that they have seen and have had to do in combat situations without having to worry about, is this person judging me? Am I a monster? How am I being perceived? And that there was a safety in that. And AI can really provide that. But who's going to, it has to be taught soft skills, and who's teaching it the soft skill.
Yeah. And I think that kind of brings us back to the central point, right? Which is basically like in all of these things, we're in that phase right now, right? We're in that. Everybody has no idea what the fuck is going on. No one has any idea how to do this. Did you see this? You're in the startup world, like 40% of venture capital deployed in 24 was to an AI company. Like 40% of all VC money. That was fucking bonkers. Like that's crazy amount. And it says it's produced this whole genre of zombie corns, they were calling them, because like there's no way that they're gonna catch up to a $3 billion valuation, $16 billion value. There's just no way of getting there. So I was talking to one guy. He's like, yeah, my buddy was offered a CEO position at a company that just got a $3 billion pre-product, pre-revenue, $3 billion valuation.
Sorry, what?
Yeah. So hold on. So he gets offered to be the CEO. And he goes, I don't understand. There's no upside for me in this, because if I take this job, we're never going to catch up to 3 billion. Like, so all of my shares will be useless, and they're going to give me this huge shares package. So we're seeing this happen left, right, and center because nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. There's going to be a tidal wave of bankruptcies out of this.
I know, but I like that.
Oh, I love it. It's great. But like,
I was there in the early blog era and I won that game. I'm a poker player, and I go, I find my table and I'm like, this looks like, there could be gold here. And I sit down and I did it with blogging, and I had plenty of success there. You want to know how many blogs there were? You want to know how many broke through and resulted in launching careers? Not that many. So I did it then. So show me the gold rush. Yeah. I believe that like I can build some AI that matters. Now I also know my lane, and I'm not trying to compete, with MedTech or compete with NVIDIA or any of that. I build soul-focused AI for people of the female persuasion, for in a specific way that is very true to me and aligned with me, because I believe that AI needs to be built with more soul.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think that all of capitalism could use a dose of more soul. It will result in greater revenue.
Yeah, that's the funny part, isn't it? I'll bet you're not wrong about that either. We've said similar things here.
If you know anybody who wants to write a check and find out, I'm raising. So
taking orders. So with that, actually, I mean, I want to have you back for sure. But where are we sending people to you now? Anywhere? Or are we still kind of in self mode for a little while? I'll have you back anytime you want to come.
We normally point somebody to something at the end of this, is what Matt's saying.
But like, I can understand.
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram.
And we'll link to all that then.
Melissa Lafsky Saleh. You can find me. I have a website, melissasaleh.com. I talk a lot publicly about trauma transcendence, because I don't necessarily believe in trauma healing, because there's so much tied up to a severe trauma, and so many people are walking around deeply traumatized. I believe that all of the problems of this world are human problems, and pretty much all of the human problems of this world are unresolved trauma problems.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like, if I have a cut and it heals, it's gone. There's no more cut. Maybe I have a scar, maybe I don't, but it's gone. Like, it's not like you ever, it's not gone about your daughters. Yeah. Like you know what I mean? Like, that's not gone. Like, that doesn't disappear.
No, I say to people, do you love your children? Yes. Well, I love mine too. She just happens to no longer be alive. I mean, you don't transcend the grief. The grief
for sure.
is love. The grief, I will carry love and grief for my daughter for the rest of my life. And I have had to learn how to incorporate grief when it arrives, because it sort of shows up and then it leaves. And I've sort of ritualized grief. I did scatter her. I had that box of her ashes in my house in Charleston. I did scatter it in a very beautiful place in Charleston before I moved to San Francisco. So on her birthday, I traveled to this place, and there's a ritual. And then also at Christmas, I know I'm Jewish, but like for some reason at Christmas, it kind of hits me. And I grieve, those are my sort of, I have had to designate. I guess that's very like working mom, Silicon Valley. I designate my calendar, my grieving time. But that's what I need to do. And I have to honor that. That's going to be with me for the rest of my life. What I talk about transcending is the PTSD, the somatic trauma.
Sure.
I mean, my life narrowed down to this. I couldn't ride the subway. I could barely go to the when you are living with PTSD and severe trauma, you don't even realize how small your life starts to become and how constricted and restricted your experience in this world becomes. So how do you transcend that? You start breaking out. You have to break through. And that's trauma transcendence. And then, it's like the snake coiled around your spine. Sometimes you still got to like get it out of there. But trauma transcendence, I firmly believe every single human being on earth could use, because I don't think you get through this human life without going through something that is so overwhelming that it leaves you with trauma.
But you know what? You're dead on with that. Like you made fun of it because I think most people could relate to the story of like, you're like, oh, I know it sounds very Silicon Valley mom of me to say compartmentalize, but the reality is that's sort of probably one of the more mature things you could do in that, because otherwise you're just letting the chance of that entering your space dictate your current situation, whether that be you're at work, at church, having sex, like whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter. But like if that grief comes on and you don't know how to compartmentalize it, then you're just letting it victimize you. Like, and
you are at the mercy of
right,
the grief,
which is no way to live at all. Like
the author of your life, you are reacting to this thing that has taken control of you.
And I think one of the things that I think that Tom and I would call summarily the Gen X problem is like, we're all like, you guys are all fucking soft, because like they let that sort of take over the narrative more than say Tom or I might.
We're technically,
right? Like,
we're all Zennials here, but
yeah, right. Well, meaning like yeah,
customer of millennial and Gen X. Well,
no, like if I'm taking you at face value, right? You have the capacity of going into a board meeting, a pitch meeting, or whatever, and keeping your shit in focus because that's what you're there to do that day.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If on the way in you get a wave of grief, you're still there for an investment pitch. Like and like at a certain point, you have to own the responsibility of what happens if you don't honor what is going on right now.
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that skill, a lot of people have lost. like you know,
it took me over a decade.
Sure.
I mean, I call it emotion. That I call emotional mastery, where it's like you are flowing with your emotions. You are not suppressing them or repressing them. You are not avoidant. And you are also not acting out in all sorts of harmful ways to food or
right.
booze or whatever. The practice of allowing the emotion to come, not fighting it, not judging it. It's here. Hi, grief. I'm going to go have my moment. I'll go into the restroom. I'll do my breathing. I'll connect with whatever I need to connect with. And I will let it pass and transmute it. Okay, it's gone now. Because when you feel the feeling, it releases. Yeah, so we are so taught, avoid pain, avoid pain, avoid pain. You're not going to get out of this without some pain.
Yeah.
So learn some pain.
No one gets out alive.
Everybody's getting hit sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Mike Tyson woke up every day for years and took punches in the face before he ever fought a professional boxing match. Just woke up every day on faith and took punches in the face. because he had a dream that he would be heavyweight champion of the world. He didn't know for years whether that was ever going to come to pass, but he got up every day and he took punches in the face. So guess what? You want the result, you got to do the work. And a huge part of the work is emotional mastery and getting comfortable feeling pain. And it goes away. When you allow it to be, it does dissipate. That doesn't mean it doesn't come back, a bit tomorrow, but it doesn't come back as strong.
And that's just a function of our take two of these and call me in the morning culture, right? Like that's the fallacy that like there's a cure for a cause and the outcome is nothing. It's a zero sum.
There's no cure for your emotions. The cure for your emotions is death.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
What makes us human? Honestly, what is the difference? There is no AGI. You want to know what makes us human? Emotion. You want to know what AI does not have? Emotion. It can fake it, but it does not have it. It does not have sentience. We don't know what sentience is. Nobody knows. Kind of like nobody knows what quantum anything is. So, your emotions are what make you human. So maybe just start noticing them and being like, oh, this is horrible. And it's what makes me human. That's great. I'm embracing it. It feels
that's
awful.
very niche-ish of you. Like, like you're like, oh, you got sick. You almost died. Oh yeah, that's great. You're alive.
Yeah.
You're a human being. You're still here. You're
Are we
alive.
still talking about this?
That's fun. Maybe we'll have appreciation for that in the era of AI, where so much it's like, well, okay, we need to actually double down on what does make us human.
Yeah.
What does differentiate us from AI? Because it's not going to be zone of excellence.
Well, to date, Tom and I have not turned this show over to the digital replications of ourselves.
We've been queuing that up though.
Yeah.
We've been going like, we should do one of those.
No, there's no AI that could replace you guys. Maybe you could have a fun conversation with it, but it's not going to
we're going to do a show.
How long ago was it where you sent me Joe Rogan? Like it was the dumbest.
Joe Rogan and Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Dude, it was Joe Rogan, Steve Jobs.
It's like I did this in like 5 minutes.
That's what eaten Joe Rogan alive.
Oh yeah,
like made mincemeat out of him.
No, but it was just funny. Like with like 5 clicks, I made this interview that never even happened between them.
And it was so bizarre. And I'm like, in 6 months, I'm not going to be able to tell whether or not this was real or not.
Wow.
Like it was a little choppy. It was still a little cutty, and now we're
it had
at
a
this
tinge
stage.
of Max Headroom.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah. Okay, well, we do run a little Gen X if we are talking about Max Headroom.
Honestly, and his whole what was it, Pepsi or was it Coke that he was promoting?
Pepsi.
It was definitely Pepsi. Yeah.
Melissa, I could talk to you all day
and
all night,
we're
but
an hour and a half in.
Jesus, we got to cut it off somewhere. But I want to keep very close tabs on you with this new thing, because when that gets the light of day, I think it's going to make a great second interview.
I thought you were going to say I think it's going to make a great impact on the world, but I'll take.
Well, listen, I think that's sort of a given,
Matt
right?
Just wants to know what's in it for us.
No, God, shut up. No,
that's fine too. I got no problem with that.
Listen. To clarify, I do think it's a cool enough idea that the conversation is going to be amazing, because I think it's a really cool idea. And I think that you're going to be in a fraternity of people with very similar type missions that are all coming to birth right now. Like everybody, there's like a whole nother wave that I am privy to, just because I'm in the startup world, just like you. And I see a lot of ideas and pitch decks and everything. And everyone's is very different. So I'm not trying to liken you to somebody else, because it would be impossible, because you're not like anybody else. But that's what makes it so cool, is that people with AI can choose these incredibly niche focused things. And because of the nature of that, even something in a similar like demographic would have probably not enough similarities to be even likened, because it's serving a completely different endpoint, right? And so I think what we're going to see is like the next evolution of AI is like talking about 2026 ish, right? I think it's going to be a significant ratchet up from where we're at. And if you're keep on the track you're on, you're going to be in that sort of wave. And I think it's going to be interesting, because I think it starts to fundamentally change how humans and technology start talking to each other, right? Like, and that's going to be, I think, a critical inflection point, anthropologically speaking, for us as humans, that could pick a direction for us, right? One way or the other. I don't know where it's going, but yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And like I said, it's going to be a killer second interview for sure.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that insight, and I love talking to you guys.
That was
You guys
a
are
great time. Yeah.
so fun.
All right, stick around when we say goodbye. But for right now, we're going to say goodbye on air. And guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Wow.
Later.
Bye. Fuck.
Bye.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.